Hi, Roger Knecht, President, Universal Accounting Center. I'm excited to share with you very specific business strategies that you can be doing in your company to ensure your profitability. And what I'd like to do is actually give you the techniques, the practical applications of these principles so that you can apply them within your business with your employees. Now, as we go through this, I'm sure you're going to want to take notes. I'm expecting that you'll actually have questions, but pay attention. Let's go ahead and go through this and see what it is you can do with your business. And the thing I want you to understand is we're going to begin, first of all, by looking from within, what we can do to actually make profit within the company. Secondly, we're then going to look from the exterior and see what it is that the business has as for value. So let's begin obviously with what we can do to ensure that we're making profit within the company. I'd like to share with you from the book the 9 principles then that are necessary for you to be profitable in your company. The principles are actually laid out in a very specific format. The first thing is that you need to understand that these 9 principles are associated with the marketing, the accounting, and the production sides of your business. So let me begin by defining those. Marketing is actually what takes place up to and including the sale. So all the different efforts and strategies, everything that's involved, individuals and processes to get the sale is the marketing. Once the transaction takes place, then what you're going to do is you're going to be looking at what's taking place on the production side. Everything you're doing to fulfill that customer's need. In this process, you also have the accounting going on. And I'm not just referring to the accountants, the bookkeepers, doing the financials, the ones recording transactions. What we're doing here is we're tracking and following the numbers associated with everything going on within the business. It's the inventory, it's the profit margins, it's time on delivery, it's anything and everything that we can quantify within the business so that we can establish measurable things that we can track and improve. Now, as we go through this, the other thing that you need to understand is the 9 principles are broken up into 3 sections. First are the day-to-day, immediate, the necessary things within your business. The next are the midterm. It's what we're focusing on in the coming months or quarters so that we can obviously improve the business, the processes, the procedures. But last of all, we've got the long-term strategy, the long-term goals. I'm going to break these out for us. So first of all, you've got the things that all the employees are involved in on a day-to-day basis. This really isn't where you, the business owner, is focusing, but it is where the employees are dedicating their time on a day-to-day basis to ensure that the sales are coming in and that the customers are taken care of, that the vendor relationships are good. So as you're looking at this, in marketing, what we're wanting to focus on are the very things that they need to be doing to what? Nothing happens until you make a sale. You need to recognize that everyone within the business needs to first and foremost focus on, is the money coming in? That's what the name of the game is. If there are no sales, we're not in business. The second thing you need to notice is obviously this with regards to accounting. It's cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. You know it better than anyone else. In the business, you can be making a lot of money, but if it's all tied up in receivables, everybody owes you money. The vendors, they still want theirs. The employees still want their payroll, so cash flow becomes an issue. How do you manage then, as you're providing your product and service, the cash flow that allows you to stay in business? The other thing that's day-to-day, something that you have to focus on, is this idea of the pour on the communication. If customers are not being taken care of, if the vendor relationships are being spoiled, obviously with the lack of communication at the employee level, you're going to lose control of your business. And so the communication is essential, it's key. Now, as you're going through this process, realize again, this is the day-to-day focus that the majority of the employees are dedicated to. Now, outside of that, we're going to then look at what management is going to be focusing on. Management is kind of looking ahead. What can we do to become more efficient, help the employees be more effective, help the employees be more profitable? And so these 3 elements are what the management team needs to be looking at on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. This is what they talk about. So in management, we're going to be looking at, in marketing, what can we do to make sure that the deal is only good for both parties? You've probably heard the phrase, the customer's always right. It's really not true. If the customer is always taking advantage of the company and the company goes out of business because the customer always got the win, nobody's going to benefit from this. What we need to recognize is the deal needs to be good for both parties. Here's a good example of that. In sales, I think a good salesperson is always eager to close the sale, but sometimes at the expense of the company. They're willing to throw in extra things, cut the price, do whatever it takes to make the sale so that they maybe get their commission perhaps, so that maybe they hit their quota. But in the end, what ends up happening is they struggle. Why? because the company is delivering a product that's no longer profitable. And what happened is that employee, in the short-sighted nature, undersold the company. What we need to do is make sure that the deal is always good for both parties, and management's just trying to make sure that that's always the case when the sale occurs. The next happens to be accounting. It's knowing the business. If you're not looking at the accounting numbers on a regular basis, what you're running the risk of is the business getting out of control. I pity the business that looks at the information through the lens of a tax accountant, looking at the accounting information through the tax preparation on a yearly basis. They're not using the information in an intelligent way to make proper decisions in a timely way to be more profitable. The accounting information isn't a necessary evil. It's not this thing that has to exist only because Uncle Sam insists that it exists. What it is the accounting is a way for the business to communicate to the business owner what's going on, where the pains are, what needs attention. And knowing those numbers is key to making proper business decisions. So you need to at least be receiving, looking at, understanding the accounting information at least monthly. So if you've got a capable, competent individual that's going on or managing the accounting processes for you, they will be delivering the information in a timely way. The numbers will be accurate. That's going to be essential for your success in becoming profitable. The other part of this is improving the internal processes. With technology today, what we're always wanting to look for with the production, the fulfillment of the product, is how can we more simply, more effectively deliver and meet the needs of the customer. And so if you're able to automate processes, you're able to systematize things, they become more manageable, more effective because they're more consistent. And so what management always needs to be looking for is, can we do this more easily? Can we do this better? The next thing is where's the vision coming from? And this is obviously where your perspective, the owner, the president, the executives, they spend their world, where you're going to be focused. And what we're trying to do is focus, first of all, with marketing is, how can we grow the business geometrically? What opportunities are we missing out on that the customers, the salespeople identify and find, but as a company, we don't have anything to offer currently. So where is that opportunity that we can then grow the business geometrically and actually in that growth find new revenue streams? That's what we're trying to do. The more siloed we are as a company with a single revenue stream, a single market, the more vulnerable we are to market changes. And what we want to do is become less vulnerable and more stable in the services and products that we're delivering. The other thing here happens to be planning for tomorrow on the accounting side. You're looking at cash flow. You're aware of the capital needs that the company has as it's growing, as it's maybe replacing equipment, as it's hiring employees. But you've got to grow responsibly. And so when you plan for tomorrow, it's what kind of expectations do you have in the coming quarter, the coming year? And that planning can be key, but that's where the management, the business owner, the executives need to be spending their time to have the vision of what's coming next. The other part of this is the production. In production, it's how do we take what we have and make it better? Obviously, in the marketplace, you're wanting to have the quality product, the premier service, or the reliable service that everyone can depend upon. That one thing that makes you unique, that unique selling proposition. Well, what can you do this year or next year to make it better, to make what you have or offer more compelling, to increase the value so that the decision to buy and purchase your product is easier for the consumer, that they can see that there is that sell advantage. That's what this is focusing on. You as executives, as business owners, need to spend that time focusing on those parts. Now, all of this is part of what we call the universal business model. Communication is key, and as these three departments actually communicate together, that they meet weekly or monthly or quarterly in retreats, they're able to identify not just short-term but long-term goals, and it's that collective collaboration as they come together that ensures profit occur. When these overlap, what you'll notice in the universal business model is the joining of them becomes black. That's in the black. That's where the profits exist for the company. Whenever you have managers in the marketing, in the production, in the accounting that don't collaborate, won't meet, that they are antagonistic with one another, they don't like each other, you're setting yourself up for failure. Why? Because when you're in that situation, these business owners are not collaborating as to how to be the most profitable they can be. You need a cohesive team where all of these three elements, marketing, accounting, and production, are collaborating and working together so that they can find the most profitable way to deliver the product or service that you have, and that's what you're selling and emphasizing. When you walk into a store and you see at the end of an aisle the end caps, you know it's there for a reason. Either it was bought by somebody who's willing to pay the money for it, or it was bought because somebody knows it sells best there. There's a reason for it. Well, what's backing that up? The numbers. It's the collaboration and communication. What we're trying to do is give you that ability within your business to become profitable because the collaboration is occurring. Now, all that being said, what I'd like to focus on is how you can then help these employees do best with what they're needing to do. Obviously, it's that of making a sale, the cash flow, and then this of pouring on the communication. So I'd like to talk about what you bring to the table to make this possible. See, you're unique, you're special. When you walk in as the business owner, you bring something that no one else can bring. And these 4 keys, these 4 elements are what they as employees look to you for. So what I'd like to do is have you see what I've found to be the 4 key elements for success. What 4 things you can do to ensure your people are inspired and willing to go the extra mile to help grow the business. So here are the 4 things that I have found to be essential for business. First is passion. That energy, that enthusiasm, that contagious zeal that you bring to the table that all the employees want to be a part of and associate with. If that passion is palpable, if they can actually latch onto it, that's where they get their drive. If you come in depressed, frustrated, they're going to see that and they're going to be discouraged. They're going to be turned off from what it is they're doing. The second thing is commitment. We're going to talk about this, where it's work ethic. I know you've got it. You're willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen. How do we bring that out in the employees? The next is quality. What makes what you do unique? What is it that stands out so that you can say above everyone else that is your competitor, you're special? And then lastly here, we're going to talk about the numbers. The knowledge are truly the key for your success because it's you living in the business and knowing what's really going on. It's kind of like having devices on your body to measure like your Fitbit, your heart rate, and your steps. Well, that real-time information is key for your success. We're going to talk about each of these. So let's begin with the passion. Passion being that contagious energy, what we want to do is we want to make sure that as you're actually doing this, the people can see in you that they have reason to be there, have purpose, that they're appreciated. The passion also comes through where they see stability. So what can I do to help you develop that passion, maintain that passion so that you can be that person that they're hoping you'll be as a leader? Well, one of the things that I'd encourage you to do is these 3 things. First and foremost, read 4 books on any topic you'd like to be the authority on, that you want to be passionate about. When you've read those 4 books, what's going to happen is you're going to become the expert. You're going to know more than 90% of the people out there because of the reading you've done. You're going to be more clear in your own mind why you like it your way, why you do it your way, and you'll be able to articulate it in a way that other people will soon be able to understand. But even more important than that, because of this reading, you're also going to know other people's points of view. You're going to understand other points of understanding in the sense that people may differ with you, but if you can at least understand why that is their opinion, you can then at least communicate more effectively with them why yours is the way it is and why you understand theirs but disagree. That's huge. The second thing is you want to participate in associations. You want to become an expert by attending different groups or peer groups where you can actually attend and associate with people within your same industry. You can learn what's cutting edge, what's going on, what's changing. These associations are meant to help you stay on the top of your game. And so that's something that I think is essential for you to maintain that passion and stay kind of focused in that energy that you need to be for everyone else. These things will actually help you be that person that you need to be for everyone else to be inspired by. The next thing is commitment. In commitment, you need to understand that your work ethic is key. You're going to be the one that goes the extra mile. My example is if you're walking down the hallway and you see within your office some garbage, maybe some paper that's fallen on the floor, are you going to walk past it or pick it up? Of course you're going to pick it up. Everyone else may not, but you will. You're going to stop by and pick that up. Why? Because this is your business. You're going to do anything and everything to make sure it works. You're going to keep it the way it needs to be. So you're going that extra mile. So how do you get the others to actually step up and do the same? So here are basically some things that you can do to accomplish that, and it's a management process within a meeting. The first thing is I would encourage you to have as part of your agenda the idea of return and report. Every time you have a meeting, it should be ending with action items. Everyone should be leaving with things they're needing to do before the next meeting. Well, when that happens, you want to have those that have left with action items come back the next time and report on what it is that they left with. Return and report is key because then there's going to be this sense of accountability. The next part of this is also when you're doing it, you need to make very clear the why. What is it that they're doing? Help them prioritize what it is they're doing and why they're doing it. The word because is very helpful. If you can help them understand why they're doing it, they're going to realize the need for it, their role in helping deliver it, but also in prioritizing of all the things they're doing, they're going to know which is first. You're the only one that can really prioritize these things. Sometimes they're happy to take on all the responsibilities, but unless of all the tasks they need to do, you can help them identify what's first, they're just going to work on whatever. But the next thing that you want to focus here is the delegation. You've asked them to do it. So you need to ask them, is there any assistance or anything that I can give you that will enable you to succeed, to actually accomplish this? Do you have all the tools and resources you need? And when that person's able to say, yes, I think I've got everything I need in order to do this, they're good to go. But the challenge that you're going to face is you don't want to, in the delegation and asking that question, take anything back. You want to make sure that they're fully capable and enabled to do the work that you've asked of them to do. And through this, you're going to raise up that commitment level that they each have. They understand what they're doing, why they're doing it. They understand the order in which it needs to be done, so they're not floundering. And every time they come back, they know that they're going to have to update and report to everyone else where they're at on what it is they were asked to do. So it's huge. The next thing you want to focus on is quality. The big thing here that I would stress is in your business, the same amount of effort that you're putting outside of the company to market your services and explain to the potential customer what it is you do should also be done within the company. Does everyone in the business understand what you do, why you do it, and why you're the best at what you do, for example? Everyone within the company, when kind of educated that way, can then understand why they're doing what they're doing with purpose. But more importantly, when they're out and they're not maybe the salespeople, they can represent the company intelligently and even refer people back to the business. The example I give is, imagine you have an employee that goes to a family reunion or a church social or whatever, and someone asks them, what do you do for a living? And they say what it is they do. And they say, well, that's great, where do you work? And they say, where do they do? And then they say, well, what do you guys do there? The last thing you want is the employee to say what they're doing with a lot of energy and gusto, but they have no way of referring the person when the person says, well, that's interesting, I actually need that. How can I do that? And they don't, I don't know how to buy or sell this to you. You need to make sure your employees understand what's going on in the company so that they can be proud ambassadors of everybody's work there. The other part of this is obviously knowledge of the numbers. With knowledge of the numbers, what we're talking about here is what are those key metrics that identify the success of business. In business, there are numbers that represent whether or not things are working or struggling, whether or not they're meeting or exceeding expectations, and what we want to do is focus on those. So what I want to do is I want to share with you an example of this, because I believe the knowledge of the numbers is very much the way that the business communicates with the business owner. I've got two families that I'm familiar with. These are two families that each have adult children that are each deaf, and this is very common in the deaf community, but it was very shocking to me. In each of these two families, I've met both of them when their children were young adults. They were both in their 20s, and I came to learn that these parents did not learn nor teach their children sign language. They discouraged their children learning it, and they didn't learn it themselves. And as I learned this, I became very shocked, because when the children were in their 20s, they were actually learning sign language, and the parents were now learning sign language and beginning to understand and communicate with their children. And I shared this story with you because I was completely shocked by this whole experience as I witnessed parents who loved their children but had no way to communicate or understand their needs, their wants. And it wasn't until their 20s that these ahas were happening as they got to actually get into their emotions and needs. Well, I make this analogy only because of the fact that I see business owners doing the same thing with their company. The company has needs. The financial numbers, the metrics that are going on within the company truly do represent the pains and the successes that the company is experiencing. But if nobody's reading or understanding them, it's almost as if no one's listening to the company and it's speaking on a deaf ear. In my opinion, a business is no different than any other living entity. You need to treat it as such. You need to give it voice. You need to listen to it. And as you're doing this, understanding the numbers is key. It's no different than asking the child whether or not it's hungry, whether or not it needs to go to sleep. If you don't listen, it's going to become ornery, it's going to become difficult. We want to listen and find out where it is that we can improve and manage the business. But with this whole thing, understand that just like with the deaf, there is a way that the business wants to communicate, and it's in the numbers. You have to listen for those numbers. Knowledge of these numbers is key, so I encourage you, if you're not already working with an accountant, a bookkeeper that's able to provide to you on a regular, timely basis the numbers for your business, you need this. And it's not just the numbers, it's the understanding of what those numbers represent. The more you can understand what those numbers mean, the more intelligent the business decisions you'll be making that will drive the profitability of your company. That's huge. Now, understanding all of this, what I want you to realize here then is these numbers, what are the ones that you should be looking at? Well, you know your business, so I'm sure there's some key numbers you're already thinking of or aware of, but let me go ahead and add to you some. When you're looking at the information, I'm sure you're aware of or familiar with a show called The Profit or Shark Tank. When you see these people who represent companies go before these individuals, in The Profit, in Shark Tank, they ask questions of the business owner. Can you answer those same questions as if you were standing there when they ask about what's your cost per acquisition of a new customer? What's your profit margin? What are your expenses per sale? All of these things are obviously important to investors. They're important to the banking industry. Well, you should be at least, if not aware of, have access to these numbers and look at them on a regular basis. You should be watching trends over the last quarter, the last year. What's going on with these numbers? Are they getting better? Are they getting worse? What can we do to improve them? Because all of them will not just affect the revenue, but they impact the profits and obviously the value of the business. So there are some key numbers that you can look at. There are ones that you can perhaps observe or watch, but understand that there are even deeper ones that you may want to look at, and these are great to discuss with your accountant, but I'm not suggesting you have to know them, but I am saying that you should have access to them and be familiar with them. Now, having said all that, let's talk about management. Management's in a position where they've got probably the most valuable asset in the company that they're needing to leverage and work with. What can they do to ensure that they're being productive and effective? I would like to share with you what we call our STAR program, and it's what we do with businesses to help them actually implement within their company some way of accounting for, or the accountability for the employees. And so STAR is an acronym. It's very simple. It stands for setting standards. Everybody, every department, and every employee has a standard, a specific metric they're responsible for. This metric is something that is normally a day or a week or a month that is tracked. And with that, these people have actually, with the T, trust that they're going to do it. So you're going to give them the training that they need, the tools, and hopefully they're going to come with the temperament, the excitement to do the work. Whenever they're not performing and meeting those standards, we need to look at these 3 T's related to trust. Do they have the tools? Was the computer working? Was the machine running? Were they with their temperament? Were they happy or are they depressed? Is there something going on at home? Is there problems at the office that we need to address? But with regards to training, can they even use the tools that they have? Or is the computer software program something that's so different that they don't understand it? All of these things are key, but with A, we're going to acknowledge their successes. Whenever they're succeeding, we want to draw attention to it, but also we want to give recognition. We want to reward them in a way that they're motivated. So we're going to talk about all of this in a little bit more detail, but I want to start with setting the standards. In setting the standards, you want to do it in a dashboard format. Everybody, every department and every person has a metric that they're responsible for, one. And it's also going to be visual. Everyone's going to see it. So it's not just a visual representation that they only see, everyone sees it. So everyone knows this department has this metric and everyone's aware of what that metric is and whether or not they're meeting it. But with this, you want to also put into place various things such as alarms that when it's brought out of alignment with what's supposed to be happening, it's brought to your attention. But when you have this dashboard, it will help you more quickly identify what's going well in the business and also what you're struggling with, what needs attention. Now, with these, I normally do the following, and you can do it however you want, but I'll build into it a 4-week rolling average. The reason for the average is the average takes out any bad days or bad weeks. I can tolerate a bad day, maybe a bad week, but I'm expecting the other weeks to make up for it, right? So the average needs to be at standard. And then every metric needs to have 3 supporting metrics so as to identify that when one metric isn't met, that key one, what 3 supporting things could have contributed to it. So let me give you an example, just an obvious one. In sales, you may have the salespeople responsible for so much in either revenue or product sales. It's a standard, everyone's supposed to be doing it, everyone knows it. Well, what you're going to do is you're going to make that an average so as to, if somebody has a bad week or has a vacation or is sick or whatever, they can make up for it. But the supporting metrics that if they've not met that number, you can look at and see why. Maybe how many visits did they do? Or perhaps how many calls did they make? How many presentations did they do? But maybe it's attendance. If they took off time because they were sick or took a vacation, obviously they didn't hit the key metric, but when you look at the supporting metrics, you can see why. Oh, they were off last week. And then you can move on. But when the key metric isn't met and you look at the supporting metrics and those aren't met, they didn't do their dials, they didn't do their talks, they didn't do their presentations, they didn't go to their client visits, well, you know why they're struggling. They need to focus on more client visits and then the sales will come. And so this is how it's easy to manage. And this exists within every company or within every department and with every employee. Now, with that, I want to point out that there are some things that you need to understand from how do you manage when the person isn't reaching those expectations. So let me kind of go through a disciplinary approach, and then I'm going to talk about a motivational approach to empower people with the STAR training program. So when we look at the standards and they're not meeting those expectations, one of the things that we want to focus then on is when they're not meeting those goals, why? So we're going to begin first and foremost with, do they understand that this key metric, this production level is important, that they're responsible for it. So I do the hat analogy. I actually, when I meet with an employee, would literally act as if I have a hat on my head and I say, you know what, Tom? I don't know if this was perhaps explained very well when we brought you on, or a year ago when you were transferred, or 6 months ago when you were hired, whenever it was, but I'd like to point out that of all the things that you're responsible for, this thing is key. This is essential. And so using the cell example, I need you to get 5 cells a week. And maybe that wasn't clear, but I need you to understand it's important. And I'll actually gesture as if I'm wearing the hat to say, do you understand and will you take responsibility for the fact that you need 5 cells a week? And I want them to basically say, yes, I now clearly understand what's expected of me and I'm willing to work towards that. Because what I'm thinking is in the whole onboarding process, they may have overlooked or may not have thought that this is as important as it is. And so what I want to do is I want to say, look, I might have not emphasized this enough. So let me just be perfectly clear. Of all the things you're doing, this is perhaps the most important thing you're doing. And I'll ask them to obviously meet that objective or ask, can you do it and by when? Now, with that being done, I feel that I've delegated to them that responsibility. It's no longer on my shoulders, and I'm going to document that that meeting happened. Now, if it happens again, I'm able to come back and then say, you know what, Tom, when we met last time, it wasn't clear, I don't think, that this was expected of you, and we spoke. And do you remember how I pointed out that this was something you needed to do? Tom's going to say, yeah, I remember that. That was something important. I'm going to say, well, I noticed you've not been doing it. I've noticed it's not been done. And Tom's going to have to acknowledge, yes, because you're only dealing with fact. It's a key metric. It needs to be done. They're not doing it. So you're dealing with fact. I've noticed it's not being done. Do you see that? And they're going to say, yes, I understand it's not being done. So what then follows is, very simply, what do you think it's telling me when you don't do that? Now, I've had this conversation with many employees, and it never fails. You're going to find yourself in a situation where they're going to answer with very similar responses. I can't do it. I won't do it. I don't have the tools to do it. I don't think this is cut out for me. But the point is they're going to come up with something. Generally speaking, they're not going to quit and say, I can't do the job. They're simply going to say, well, I can't do it because of this. And so oftentimes I'm able to give them whatever resources they're needing to then be able to achieve it. But more importantly, what you're able to do is still again emphasize the need for this. Now, when you end the meeting, you're usually given some suggestions, some training, some role playing. But the point is you're able to end by saying, so if we have this meeting again, what does that tell me? And they're going to typically say, either I can't do the job, I won't do the job, or this job isn't for me. Now, you have to be careful. You only want to ask that question if you expect to then actually separate if that change doesn't occur. But normally when that happens, you'll find that that separation, if and when it does take place, is a lot more natural, because having been in management for years, I can definitely tell you that one of the things that's stressful is when you let someone go and you're aware of perhaps they're living check to check or whatever needs they have, you feel a burden of letting them go as if it's your fault. But in this case, it's not your fault. You've given them clear understanding of what's expected. You've given them the tools and resources to do it. And most importantly, what's happened is you've put this in their hands. They know whether or not they can and will succeed. So what we're trying to do is empower them. Now, I share this with you for a few reasons. One, it helps management. This technique empowers management to really feel better about what's going on. There's clarity in the job. They're not feeling the burden of expecting something of someone that they can't meet. And most importantly, the tasks are actually going to be done to accomplish this, because obviously everyone knows what's expected of them. But let's talk about motivating employees. Get off the negative and let's talk about how do you inspire someone to actually do this. Employees themselves are actually typically motivated by one of 4 characteristics or types. These 4 are key. First of all, you need to understand which employee is motivated by which, okay? So just to clearly understand them, you're looking at time, money, recognition, and then altruism. Now, there's a great book out there that addresses these, What Motivates Me. I think it's important that you understand what's important to you in motivation, what your management team is motivated by. I would encourage you in human resources to go by and actually on the employee files once a year, just mark down through evaluation, which is more important, time, money, recognition, or altruism. I'm going to tell you right up front, most people are not altruistic as to their motivation. There are a few, and I'll talk about which they are. So let's go through these. Time. If I had a task that I needed to have done this weekend that was unexpected, and I was going to need someone to come in and work Friday night, all day Saturday, Sunday, Monday, because there was a deadline that needed to be met and something happened, we're going to miss it. When I go in to meet with Sally and I say, Sally, I really need your help and you have to do this, you need to do this, and she's going to do it. I mean, there's no question she's going to do it, but I want to reward or motivate her or thank her for what she's about to do. So I'm going to say either one of 3 things. Sally, 1, I'll give you time off. I'll give you sometime this year an extra week off, paid time off that you can just take, just get this done, and you can take a week off paid. Well, if Sally happens to not need time, she doesn't have any hobbies, doesn't have a family, she doesn't do extracurricular activities, she's a workaholic. You offer her time, she's not really motivated by that or encouraged by it because she wouldn't know what to do with it, okay? But if you came to her with maybe, let's say, money, you know what, Sally, you do this, I'm going to give you a bonus of $1,000 on Tuesday. Need it done, I'll pay you $1,000. What's going to happen is she may say, well, that's great, but I'd rather prefer the time because she's not living paycheck to paycheck. She doesn't need the money. She's doing all right financially. So you've got to figure out what's motivating these people. Recognition, so that you know who these people are. It's basically individuals that they like to be recognized as employees of the month. They want to be recognized as maybe getting the employee parking lot out front, or maybe they want their family to understand that they're appreciated at work. So you want to give them maybe a night at the hotel this weekend so that the spouse understands they're appreciated and sees that they're valued as an employee, and they can see that you're recognized as such. That your family, you're given a trip this weekend up to some place where the kids get to come along and the kids get to see mom or dad actually being celebrated as employee of the month. The point is recognition is sometimes key because sometimes people just don't feel valued. They don't feel noticed. And so if you can just say, hey, if you do this, I'll give you and your family these things, movie tickets, game tickets to the next sporting event, that might be huge to these people. Which person's motivated by what? And what we want to do is look at those. So last one being altruism. There are a few individuals out there that are motivated by the fact that they want to help other people's lives. They want to make their lives better. So when they finish their task, when they're done with whatever they're doing, when they finish this big thing, they're sometimes just willing to do it out of the sake that everyone's life is better. But you'll notice these people because they typically get engaged within the business in helping other people do their jobs. They'll go the extra mile by planning the company party and so forth because they're always interested in trying to make everyone else's lives better and easier because that's where they get value and self-worth. They get it in making helping other people achieve their goals, okay? Very few people are motivated exclusively by that, but this is like the people that join the Peace Corps and so forth. They're really outwardly trying to make the world a better place, but again, there's very few people that this is their core motivator. Now, having said all that, I want to add a 5th thing in here. It's a bonus item. I told you there are 4 keys to success. I'm going to share with you a 5th, and it's this idea of vacations. This is something that I learned a number of years ago, and I now share it with everyone that I speak. And it's essentially the fact that when you work as hard as you do, you need to actually celebrate that time with a vacation, something that's important to you, some time well spent. Now, I'm going to be the first to admit I'm a workaholic. Even on my vacations, I'm working. I take my computer with me. I try and find time in downtime to do work. I'm reading a work-related book, whatever the point may be. But the essence of it is the following. You want to work to live, not live to work. And secondly, you want to understand that if you're creating a culture in your workspace where when you give people personal time off or vacation time, but everyone at the end of the year celebrates who's lost the most because it doesn't carry over to the coming year, let's say, rather than celebrating who went on the vacations and where and what they did and how fun was it. You've got a corrupt culture where what you're doing is you're giving people benefits and saying they get so many days off a year, but then you're shaming them for using that time off. The award isn't to the person who worked the most. It's not to the person who lost the most PTO time or family time. It's to the person who actually lives a fuller life. And where you're working as hard as you are, I challenge you to take and use these vacations. So let me teach you a little bit about this. The study was actually done, a number of studies, and they found that really what's actually beneficial in vacations isn't the vacation itself. It literally is the anticipation of the vacation. It's the planning, looking forward to it. It's the time with friends and family coordinating what you're going to do when that time comes. And I'm not talking about 3 weeks in Europe. I'm talking about even just an extended vacation or a weekend. It could be camping, it could be hunting, it could be sporting events. Whatever your thing is, you need to do it. But you need to do it this way. One, it needs to be no further out than 3 months, okay? Typically no more than the 12 weeks. What you're going to find is when you're doing these things, the anticipation, looking forward to it, is rejuvenating. And you're able to talk about it and celebrate it. And the real payoff comes when you come back that everyone else is vicariously able to live through that experience. What did you do? What was it like? How was it? That's huge within the company organization because everyone's celebrating the living of life. But here's the other thing that you want to recognize. They found that when you go on these vacations, not only is the anticipation where you get your recharge, your boost, and by the way, before I go any further, this isn't to say you look forward to a vacation and cancel them all and don't go on them. But what the vacation is sometimes overburdened. We tend to pack a lot into our vacations. We tend to go the extra mile. It's where we take our kids to Disneyland and we start at 9 in the morning and we're there until midnight and the 5-year-olds are just drug around crying and complaining and we're saying, we paid a lot, you're going to like this. The vacations, we tend to make them quite intense, but the point is if you can anticipate them and look forward to them, they can be beautiful. Now, there are a few nuances in there that I can tell you about. They've found in the studies that if you can make the first day and the last day relaxing and rewarding, in the fact that you were able to do something that was really rejuvenating and fun, your memories of it will be better than if you made the first day and the last day stressful because you tried to pack so much in on those the first and last days. The other part of this is you want to understand with vacations, you need to have one that is out no more than 3 months. And so what I mean by that is when you come back from a vacation, you need to have another one on the agenda. They found in the studies that when the vacation is over, there is a depression that can come in. And the depression can occur because you have nothing else to look forward to. There's nothing else scheduled or planned. So what you want to do is make sure you always have something on the horizon when you get back within the next 3 months. So in essence, every 3 months you're doing something. Now personally, I'm to the point now where I do something nearly every weekend or at least once a month. Something big. Why? Because it gives me purpose, all right? It's something my family can look forward to. I work long days, and as I put in that long time, what I'm able to do is then point out that we're going to be doing something together. It's the work hard, play hard philosophy is what I try to live by. But the thing with the vacations is if you're able to come back from one and look forward to and plan the next, that's so much more rewarding. So don't plan and anticipate the vacation after the vacation. Make the most of the one coming, but then have one on the books. This is huge. There's a lot of studies that actually back this up, and I really think it can impact your culture in a very positive way. So let me just end by sharing this. We've covered a few things and highlighted a number of things. We talked about the 9 principles for profitability. We talked about the book in the black. I didn't really speak too much about cutting to the chase with regards to sales, so let me just highlight it here real quickly. That there are in fact 7 steps to the sales process, and within your company you want to look at your marketing to determine, is it in fact made up of these 7 elements, okay? These 7 elements are just listed here. It's rapport and discovery. Does your customer have a way of interacting with your business, whether it be online or face-to-face or in retail, that is a positive experience? Is it a good experience or is it frustrating? APE. Is it clear to the customer when they're interacting with you to make the purchase that what they're going to buy is achievable, meaning they can accomplish what they want? It's profitable, they're going to get a good return on their investment, it's worth their money. You're also looking at easy. Is it something they can easily use? Are they buying it and getting it 6 weeks from now? Are they getting it today? That type of thing. So APE is always the acronym we want to follow. It's achievable, profitable, and easy. You just look at, is your customer able to see those elements within the purchase? You want to deal with pain, why are they there, or opportunity. Not all sales are simply because there's a problem. They could be opportunity related. So we want to look at in your sales process, pain or opportunity. Here this one is in this particular lesson talking about the pain side, and then paint. Paint is where you're talking to the customer and getting their impression of how this will benefit them. So it's not the salesperson or the company saying this is how you will be better because of this. It's the customer saying, hey, I'm looking forward to this because by doing this, I see how this will better my life, better my situation, improve what's going on. If the customer can articulate that, if you can get the salesperson or your sales process to have the customer divulge that or reveal that, then you're in a position where the customer is literally selling themselves. The next part is the solution. Is it clear what they're going to then be purchasing? Is it clear what they're going to get, the features and the benefits? And then obviously you need to ask for the close. You need to have a very simple, a very clear sales process. How do you ask for that money? Now, all those things are there, and I thank you for your time. Obviously, I hope you came away with the takeaway that you can implement in your business, some notes that you're able to use as you're trying to build your business and make it more profitable. So I challenge you this. Please, if you can, contact Universal Accounting Center. We would love to actually work with you as to implementing these strategies specifically in your business and help you become more profitable, just as it says in the black. So with that in mind, thank you for your time. I appreciate you spending the time with me today because I'm sure that this was rewarding, and I would encourage you to reach out to us because I'd love to find out more about your specific situation. Take care, and remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal, so take care and have a great day.